Welcome back to Master Music Method and this video in the guitar directory dealing with the open tuning of a G. There are many open tunings. Some are completely bizarre that I don't even use. Some are used by almost everybody, has an open tuning they love. I came into open tunings the honest way. I stumbled on them by accident listening to Chet Atkins. And this is the first one I ever learned to work in. And so I'm going to show it to you now. And it's not one that people readily jump to. When they think of open tunings, they think of DADGAD, especially DADGAD. And I don't use that tuning either, actually. I use a version of it, but we'll get into that later. The first thing I want to show you is this open G tuning. So we're going to use a tuner just for accuracy's sake. I don't use tuners to do this, but what happens when you detune a guitar, it generally takes the entire instrument slightly out of pitch, either one way or the other. So what you do to get to open G is the first thing you do is that, well, first, it doesn't really matter if you're in tune in standard, but I like to be in tune first of all before I even start, because I create the open tuning against the guitar itself. But for this purpose, we're going to take the A down to a G. And then we're going to take the E down to a D. And then we're going to take the bottom E down to a D. So I'm just going to check this with the tuner, make sure it's all right, because it gets a little sharp, actually. So there's your open G. D, G, D, G, B, and D again. So what it basically is an open A chord. If you played A in standard, it would sound 2 frets higher than this. So it's really one of these, but just open in the key of G instead of A. And make sure you temper it nice like that. That trio there. And then you can temper it further by fretting the B string at the 3rd fret and looking for that D note, which in this case is flat, so there it is. And then the bottom string is the same note as the B string at the 3rd fret. So the first thing I ever heard Chet play in this tuning, of course, was what he called the Hawaiian slack key, which was so that taught me a few things about the chord, about the tuning. And what I want to do in this lesson is not necessarily show you any tune, because that's not quite where we want to be. What I'm going to show you is all the chord possibilities in this tuning, which is fascinating in itself. So let's take a look at the left hand and see what we got. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to know is sort of the basic chords that you're dealing with in the key of G. You need your 1, 4, and your 5. So your 1, of course, is all the strings open. And you can get C, the bottom C that you're able to get is this one, which is like a C chord with the ring finger missing. And it's got a nice sustained note there. Then your D is a little more complex. You have to cover this up and make your A. And you get a D7th out of it. And then your A would be just barring everything at the 2nd fret. And then your A minor would be just like an A minor, except you move these pair of fingers, this pair of fingers up a set of strings, and it gives you sort of an A minor variant there. And then, so what's really cool is when you're in G and you go up to that A minor chord, all you have to do to get the D is move the ring finger down 1 string. And then your E minor would be this. And everything else open. So there's your G, C, D, A minor, E minor. There's your B minor, which is a pretty chord down there too, which looks like a, I don't know, sort of like an F shape, but B minor. So those are all the chords you're gonna, well, not all, but most of the chords that you would use normally in the key, in this key. Open G, C, D, A minor, with the root being right here. You don't play the top string in the A, and then your E minor and your B minor. So here's some really cool tricks that open tuning affords. You can, one of the things that I love about open tuning is it allows you to play a lot of varying bass lines. So, and what I mean by that is, here's a little trick. These are 2-note chords that'll walk you up through C and D, and the shape is like this. Just those 2 notes. A string 2nd fret, B string 1st fret. And if you walk that up, isn't that a pretty voice? And then your C is like this. The notes come together on the same fret. Same strings. They split apart below the 5th. There's C, D. Isn't that pretty? And if you want to make these chords a little meatier, you can go and then add this note here. So you're going all on the same fret. A, D, B. And D chord, C chord, walk down, back to G. And then your E minor will be up here, and it looks like an A minor again, except you're playing it at the 9th fret. So it's a nice walk down. E minor, D, C, walk that down again. Another pretty walk around is this one. So you're playing the C chord up here, and a nice unison. This is a harder stretch, but so that's the D chord with this big pinky stretch down to the 4th fret for that nice bass note. And the A string gets muted, you don't play it. You can also do it that way, which is a D chord with the bass note. meaty C. Isn't that beautiful? And you don't have to remember that many shapes for this. You just get this kind of a big shape here that walks you up from G to C, and then you've got that slides up 2 to D. Your A minor chord up here is E minor. And then your D with a nice F sharp bass. Or if you get the cojones for it, that stretch. So that right there, good Lord, there's so many ideas in there, and that's one of the reasons open tunings are so cool, because they offer a different voice than the guitar normally offers in standard tuning. There's a lot of droning happening. There's a lot of this string always being open, and usually the G is usually open, and of course always remember that because it's open, you can just bar and get chords, right? So you get open G, A, your C is here, and D, right? So that's an option too if you need to get a whole chord somewhere. That's a little extra little walkabout too. And this is what you can do with these shapes is just absolutely limitless. So yeah, let's go around back to the front. Just an example of some of the things that Chet played in this tuning. And frankly, seeing how it's done is not that hard because there's so much already done for you by the tuning. So feel free to experiment with this. I mean, it literally is limitless. I was just speaking in between camera changes that when people learn open tunings, they often become obsessed with them. And there's a good reason for that. They really are not the norm. And they open up a whole world of possibilities of everything from composition to finding new ways to play songs you already know. And the voicings that are there. And just experiment with all. I gave you a massive primer of what to do in this tuning. And now it's up to you to work on that and then find your own. There's no wrong thing. You will find other chords, other voices, other ideas, all sorts of stuff. And it's such a beautiful tuning. It's very relaxing. It's great for ballads and like that one and both sides now. So anyhow, I hope you enjoy this. I know I've probably just created a bunch of monsters in some of the corners of my little online school. So I will sit by the forums and wait for you to curse at me because you can't get anything else done because now you're in open G. So there you go. We'll see you at the next lesson. Hang tight. Next one will be open D, the Joni Mitchell key. See you soon.